This is the Storm Warning Show. Turn the radio up. Let's go. You're listening to the Storm Warning Show at BKS1Radio.com. You're listening to the Storm Warning Show at BKS1Radio.com. Turn the radio up. BKS1, BKS1, BKS1Radio.com. Turn the radio up. BKS1, BKS1, BKS1Radio.com. Turn the radio up. You're listening to the Storm Warning Show at BKS1Radio.com. You're listening to the Storm Warning Show at BKS1Radio.com. Turn the radio up. BKS1, BKS1, BKS1Radio.com. Turn the radio up. BKS1, BKS1, BKS1Radio.com. Turn the radio up.
Wyclef Jean, BKS1 Radio. Let's go.
This is Essence Atkins, and this is BKS1 Radio.
Hi, this is Melba Moore, and you're listening to BKS1 Radio.
Yo, check it out. What's the deal? This the chef. Giving a big shout out to my peoples. Big KS, you already know what it is. Salute.
What's up? It's your girl Monifa, and I'm hanging with BKS1 Radio.
Hi, I'm Iyanla Van Zandt, and you're listening to BKS1 Radio.
BKS Radio, baby.
Hey, this is Jasmine Guy for BKS1 Radio.
What's going on? This is Lamont Rooker, and this is BKS1 Radio.
Shout out to BKS1, the best kept damn secret in the business.
Hey, what's up? This is Raven Goodwin from BET's Being Mary Jane, and shout out to BKS1.
Hi, this is Leon. You're watching BKS1 Radio.
BKS1. God bless y'all.
Hey, I'm the queen of comedy some more, and right now you're rocking with BKS1 Radio, and this is the Storm Warning Show. Hey, I'm the queen.
How you doing? We here at the La Marqueta in East Harlem. Right, we have our book signing. My name is Raymond Santana. I'm one of the exotic 5. Make sure you check into the Storm Warning Show with DJ Storm and Norman and Hurricane Kiss. Peace, family. How you doing? We here at the La Marqueta in East Harlem. Right here.
Welcome. Another Thursday night on the official BKS1 Radio Show, Storm Warning Show. Yes. All right. Now listen. I'm excited tonight for multiple reasons. Not only because I got my great co-host in the building, 1/3 of the R&B group Allure. I'm going to clap it up for that. Yes, but I'm also excited because I have the mayor of the great city of Plainfield in the building. Absolutely. Now you know, listen. Our show is national. So Plainfield went national, and we made the news, right, when we had to have a storm recovery relief benefit. And we made the news because we had a terrible storm, tornado, floods, and all of that, right? But through the mayor's efforts, he actually helped the city get back on his feet, and he's in the building tonight. So I just want to introduce him and bring him on to BKS1 Radio, Plainfield's own BKS1 Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's introduce the Honorable Mayor O'Map, Adrian O'Map. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you?
I am doing wonderful.
Now, I've been hearing some great things that you about to partake in. Yes. You are running for U.S. Congress. Yeah. You about to fill another great person's seat for U.S. Congress. Mm-hmm. Now, listen, we're gonna go back. And I told you how this interview was going to be. Yes. We're going to go back. What made you wake up and say, I'm going to run for Congress?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
And let me say this. I decided to run for Congress for a number of reasons. And I think that it's important for me to frame the person that I am, the conditions that led me to public service, having grown up on the island of Barbados in the Caribbean, a very poor kid, struggling without the basic necessities of life. And as a child, I grew up with a severe stutter, and I was teased into silence, and I lost my voice. And so this campaign, we talk about your voice, our voice. And that's not just a slogan, it's a lived experience. It's real for me. And so I decided that I wanted to run for Congress, to be the voice of the people. And given my lived experience, the struggles that I face, I know that my struggles are the struggles of the people of Plainfield, the struggles of the people of this 12th congressional district. And I want to be that voice that will be advocating for the needs of the people in this district in terms of the affordability crisis, the housing crisis, the issues with education, health care, taxes. Those are the issues that are plaguing our district and our nation. And given my executive experience, given the challenges that I face in that role as chief executive, I truly believe that at this time that I am well suited and qualified to fill the shoes of a Bonnie Watson Coleman.
Yes.
Who has led with distinction. And those shoes are very large. But I believe, given all that I have done, all that I have accomplished, with the team that I surrounded myself with, that this is the right time for me to go to Washington to be a voice of the people in the 12th district, to bring about the same level of transformation that we saw here in Plainfield over the last 12 plus years of me being mayor. And so I want to use that experience, that background.
And you had a lot of experience in training just to run this city. People don't realize, when you say Plainfield, New Jersey, it may seem small to others, but this city, I'm telling you, it resonates.
You'd be
resonates
surprised,
across
and,
this
and
country.
It's not just because I've been working with you for 16 years now, which is insane still. But I have conversations with people from all walks of life, from the Bronx, Queens, Long Island, wherever. And I mention Plainfield, and they're like, I love Plainfield. You know what I mean? Sometimes I hear people saying, I love Plainfield. Like, I used to visit there, or I grew up there, and then I moved, and I want to go back. So Plainfield definitely resonates with a lot of people.
Absolutely.
On so many different levels. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And just while we have you on here, I wanted to say I've seen a lot of progress in the city of Plainfield. And you have a great team, great staff. Every city has its problems. Mm-hmm. Every city across this country has its issues. But one of the things I like most, and again, of seeing, how our city progressed, is that when we had tragedy, how it was addressed. When we had storms and tornadoes, I've seen the city give away ice when we needed ice, waters, food. It's just the city comes together through his leadership. So I appreciate that. I do want to say I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I really want to talk about, because when you talk about running Congress, being in Congress and running the city is such a great responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I happened to run across the commercial for Mayor Matt. I happened to run across that, and I said, wow. I was like, definitely some huge shoes to fill. And I'm going to play this clip. And I want us to look at this clip and listen to what he's saying. All right, here's the clip.
America works best when leaders focus on results, not noise. Adrian Mapp came to this country as a young man because his family believed in the promise of America. He watched his mother work hard, play by the rules, and sacrifice so much to give him opportunities she could only dream of. She taught him faith in God, in hard work, and in the idea that tomorrow can be better than today. As mayor, Adrian honored that faith with action. He invested in public safety and crime is down. He spearheaded new investment in our economy and new businesses are opening. He put Plainfield families first. Now good jobs are coming back to our community. And he balanced the budget without raising taxes. He didn't do it with politics as usual. He did it by bringing people together and solving real problems.
In Congress, I'll do the same thing. Cut through the bickering, lower costs for families, and expand access to affordable health care. I'm Adrian Mapp, and I approve this message because working families deserve a fair shot.
America works best when leaders focus on...
Now, when I see that, I feel good. I'm going to be honest. I would love somebody that represented Plainfield to be in Congress.
Absolutely.
And my next question to you is, what do you feel about the political climate the way it is now? What's your feelings on it?
We are living in some very difficult times. There's a great divide in terms of the political atmosphere that exists today, especially in Washington, D.C. And it has gotten so bad that nothing is getting done. And we need to be able to work together. And it should not be about Democrats versus Republicans. It should be about what is best, what is right, what is fair and just for this nation that we all love so much. And the politics that exists today has created a gulf that has caused people to be so splintered that we're not able to get things done. Right. And in that process, it's the people that are suffering. It's why costs has gone through the roof. It is why the affordability crisis is plaguing so many of us across the district and across the nation. And so we have to find a way to come together and to solve the problems of the American people. And the only way that can happen is by having someone who has experience, someone who has been able to build consensus and to get things done. And so my plan in going to Washington is to be able to work within the Democratic caucus, to work across the aisle, and to work with the Problem Solvers caucus, so as to be able to get things done, so as to bridge that gap and to solve some of these problems that we are facing. And the only way we can do that is by working together across the aisle and to deliver for the American people.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that honestly,
and pull the mic a little bit closer to you, Mayor. So just a little bit.
Like we've had these conversations plenty of times. We were just talking about this recently, and I think that's like the biggest issue that we have now, whether it be in politics or real life. I feel like when you come across people in general, no matter what nationality, no matter what age, whatever, we have a really, really big problem with people people trying to decide what other people deserve. You know what I mean? Whether you're Democratic, Republican, or whatever, that causes a divide because one feels a certain way, the other one feels another way. One feels that certain people don't deserve certain things. The other one feels that we all deserve to be treated fairly and to have equality and to have health care and all these things. So how do you deal with that? Like, how do you feel like you're going to be able to deal with wanting to, I guess, bring that across to people, people who are uneducated to a certain degree and feel that unless you're sitting in you're at a certain plateau in life, then you don't deserve to be up here with us, because people do look down on other people and don't feel like we deserve all these things that we're fighting for. So Does that scare you at all, or do you feel like you're ready for that?
I am ready for that. And the reason I am ready for that is because it has been my lived experience. I have had to struggle. I've had to fight all my life. And I've had to do that from the moment I entered into the political process. And so struggle dealing with difficult people and having to build relationships and alliances, that's something that I have done in order to be able to do the things that we have done here in Plainfield. I've had to work with difficult people on the council, but because the goals were the same, we were able to find common ground. And although there's this great divide that exists in Washington, I believe that at the end of the day, we all want what's best for the American people. And so, given the fact that I have been a chief executive, dealing with difficult situations, governing through a pandemic, through some severe weather events, I am built for this because I have done it. We have done it as a community, an administration and a council that came together during very difficult periods in order to address the problems that we've been facing. And Plainfield is just a, microcosm of what exists at the national level. And so if we can do it here in Plainfield, in the 12th Congressional District, we can do it on the national stage, and to be able to deliver for the people of this district, the people of the state of New Jersey, and the people in the U.S. in general. And so there isn't any challenge that can't be met with persistence, with determination, and with a will to do what's necessary to get the results that one is looking for.
One of the problems that people talk to me about, and I had other people, running for different things come here and everything, either city council, or we had another person running for Congress come. And one of the things I always ask them is, when you get to that next level in Congress, how accessible will you be? Because, a lot of people say, okay, well, we put him in office, or we put her in office. Now she's not accessible. Now he's not accessible. How do you respond to that?
I am a person of the people. I have always been accessible in my role as mayor. My doors have always been open, and I am easy to reach. So being accessible is not an issue that the people I represent will face. And although I am going to Washington, I will not be leaving Plainfield. And people will know where to find me. People will know where my office is. People will know my telephone number. People will know my staff, and they will know how to reach me. So I am a person of the people, and my job is to serve the people of the 12th Congressional District. So having access to me will not be a problem at all for anyone at any level.
And also voters also gravitate towards relatability.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How much can this person that's running for office relate to my situation, relate to my struggles, relate to my everyday problems, paying bills, the taxes, the housing situations, how relatable would you say you are to the people?
So I have talked about struggle. Struggle is in my DNA. I am a very poor kid who grew up under very challenging circumstances. I went to school without lunch, with just a bottle of sugar water. I grew up without a father. My grandmother fathered me. And so the struggles that people are facing here in the city of Plainfield are my struggles. The struggles of the 12th Congressional District are my struggles. These are my lived experiences. And so I can relate with people who don't have food on the table. I can relate to people who are not able to afford the medicine that they need. I can relate to people who don't have a decent quality place to call home. I can relate to people who don't have jobs, to people who work at the gas station, in the mail room, because I have done it. I have done all of these things. And because of that experience, it gives me the ability to relate to people on every level. I wasn't always the mayor of the city of Plainfield. I wasn't always a county commissioner or a council person. I am a person who grew up on Plainfield Avenue and West 7th Street, and who have lived on the west end of the city my entire 46 plus years that I've been in this city. And so relatability is something that comes easy for me. And so I don't see that as a challenge. I see it as an opportunity to further connect with people who I am already able to identify with, because their struggles are my struggles. And so I identify.
And honestly, I laugh, right? Because everything that he said I agree with, but also because when you look at the climate of our nation now, who's running it? I don't even like to say the person's name. There's nothing relatable about that person and who we are. When you can't wake up in the morning and say, and not even say that you went through it, but a person with empathy, to me, always goes a long way. So when you're in a position to run a country and decide what's best for people that you know nothing about, because you didn't wake up having the same struggles as that person. You didn't wake up not knowing what it's like to go to school and not be able to have lunch. Like you said, you went with sugar water. Some of us didn't go with anything. You know what I mean? And to have somebody running this country who has had a silver spoon in their mouth all their lives and now thinking, I'm going to relate to my people, they only relate to anybody who they think they're going to be able to get something from. Like, you saw what happened the first year. Everybody was all, oh, stimulus checks and this, that, and the third. Temporary, joy for what? For long-term pain? Because we're all going through a lot. Like, we're all struggling to some degree. And, I've been having a conversation with somebody who's very dear to me all day just in regards to, child support and things of that nature. And it's super unfair to see people that are hardworking and that are amazing parents and are amazing human beings that came from nothing, you know what I mean, and work hard and still have nothing, or are struggling to just have whatever they need. So, and to mention with you saying that you were relatable, like I remember when we were hosting the July 4th concerts, when you came on stage and you were speaking to everybody in the park, I saw the love that he received that day. And it wasn't just because, oh, he's a mayor, let's just cheer for him. You saw people actually engaging and listening, because I can tell that he's been doing his part up until now. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. You're always going to have opposition.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're always going to have critics.
Absolutely.
You're always going to have these things.
Naysayers and yeah.
But my thing, what I look at in anybody running for office is how are they going to address the problems. The problems, right. And how quickly they're going to address problems. So, and with that being said, I know when I look at some of the points on your campaign, and it says what this campaign is really about, and it says government that works for everyday people, right? So that's one of the points. Now, one of the things I'm concerned with, because I'm getting older, I'm not as young as I used to be, is healthcare, right? So when I look at the issue of healthcare, and one thing one of your bullet points says is, care should not bankrupt a family. Amen. How do you address that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because healthcare is one of the greatest challenges that we are facing here in not only the 12th district, but in the nation. And no one should have to choose between medicine and food. Everyone ought to be able to go to a doctor when he or she has a need. And I believe in universal health care. I believe that health care should be accessible to every person who needs it. And that is one of the reasons why, a few months ago, when the Plainfield Health Center, known as a federally qualified health center, FQHC, was about to close its doors because it couldn't meet payroll. And they came to us. And as the CEO of the corporation Plainfield, I gathered my staff, and together we worked on a plan that led to an infusion of cash into the Plainfield Health Center that allowed it to keep its doors open and continue as a going concern to provide health care to the people of the 12th Congressional District, Plainfield and Union County, as well as other municipalities across the district, in Middlesex County and in Somerset County. So I believe that we have an obligation to have Medicare for all, universal health care, and that no one should have to choose between whether he or she can see a doctor or if they need to spend money putting food on the table. So we have an obligation as a city and a nation that have so much. This is the richest country on the face of the earth, and we are spending $2 billion a year, not a year, a day, fighting a senseless war in Iran. And people are going without health care, which is a human right. So I will be a fierce advocate to make sure that the ACA, also known as Obamacare, healthcare subsidies are extended, and that the millions of people who've had to drop their health care because they can't afford it will be able to regain their health insurance so that they can take care of themselves.
Well, one thing for sure, I definitely don't see you being a yes man to the president.
At all.
That's one thing for sure. And that's, so you know how I feel about that situation.
Right.
Let's talk about the next issue, housing. Working people deserve a place to call home.
Amen.
And it needs to be affordable as well. How will you address that issue?
So first of all, I should point out the fact that New Jersey has a need for over 220,000 additional housing units. And in Plainfield, since I became mayor in 2014, we have built over 6,000 units of housing, market rate, mixed income, and affordable housing. And I believe, like you do, that every person deserves a place that they can call home and that they can afford. So we are in the process of building another 1,000 units of affordable housing. Now, there are some critics who believe that we have built too much housing. I totally disagree. How can you arrive at that conclusion when there are people who are still longing for a place to call home? And so we will provide incentives to people so that they can afford to become first-time home buyers. And we will do that. We have done that by providing incentives. And so when I go to Washington, I will be advocating for a federal credit for first-time home buyers so that more people will be able to own a piece of the American dream. I think that's extremely important. Not only that, but I will be advocating for more low-income housing tax credits to come to the state so that developers can build the housing that's needed. And I will be also pushing and working as a congressperson with the governor of the state of New Jersey so that we could have a program that will return these stranded assets that we have across the state We refer to them as office parks that were closed as a result of the COVID pandemic. And they're just sitting there as a reminder of what was. And I want to be able to advocate for resources to come to the state of New Jersey so that those stranded assets could be converted into housing for the people of the state, affordable housing. And so these are the things that we have to do, we must do, and I will be an advocate for that. Again, more low-income housing tax credits so that we can build more affordable housing, and a credit from the federal government for first-time home buyers so that more people can own a piece of the American dream, and the affordability challenges that we're facing could be addressed in a very unique and positive way.
So let me ask you, because in speaking of the critics, so when you talk about developing, and some people feel as though it's too much overdeveloping, is there a study done before the development happens? You know, before these apartment buildings go up and additional housing goes up in there, is there like a study done before it happens? Because I think people's biggest complaint is congestion. Yeah. When it comes to that, that's one of the critics. Then congestion. So,
well, the answer is yes. We do studies all the time. They're called areas in need of redevelopment. So we conduct those studies to determine whether or not a particular area is suited for the development that we as an administration are interested in. And so every area of the city where you see these projects being built, there were studies conducted to determine whether or not it should be done. And we don't wake up one morning and say, we're going to put a house over there, an apartment over there. Mm-hmm. This is done intentionally. And we conduct the studies. We go before the planning board, before the governing body, and projects are approved based on need. And there is a great need in Plainfield for additional housing units. And what we have done is we have transformed vacant and blighted areas that were not generating any revenue into productive mixed-use housing and commercial projects. And this is the kind of thing that I, as a leader with a focus on Washington, will be advocating for, to bring more resources to the state and to the district so that we could address the housing need, not only in Plainfield, but in every municipality in the 12th district, because the problem is so great. The shortage is so significant that we have to address it. We have no choice. People need a place to call home, and that is why my administration has been focused on developing this city and building the housing that's needed. And the needs in the 12th district are not different from the needs in the city of Plainfield, which is why the Department of Community Affairs has assigned a certain number of housing units that municipalities across the state are supposed to build so that we could address the housing shortage that exists in this state.
And I'm glad you said it, because the issue definitely is not just Plainfield. Mm-hmm. It's all over. It's everywhere. There definitely is a need for housing. So I'm glad you kind of stated that.
The numbers on homelessness right now is insane.
Yes, so, no, it's ridiculous.
It's very.
Hot button issue. And hot button issue across this country. Immigration. So let's go with this one. Fair, humane, and practical reform. Immigration. Talk about it, man.
I'm glad you used the word reform, because in many of the conversations that I've been hearing and in the forums that I have participated in, the other candidates are talking about abolishing ICE. ICE. And I think that's a knee-jerk reaction to the things that we have seen on television. But we need to reform our immigration system, comprehensive immigration reform. And if I may talk about ICE for a second, we have to have an entity, an agency that is responsible for protecting our borders, responsible for immigration and custom enforcement. And so that entity happens to be ICE. But it could go by any name. And so I am not one of those that's been calling for the abolition of ICE. I am calling for ICE to be reformed. And that can be done in three ways. Currently, there is too much money allocated to ICE. And some of those financial resources should be repurposed to healthcare and to education and to other needs that we have. So reducing the funding of ICE is one of the things that I would advocate for. I would also advocate for new policies. And thirdly, I would advocate for a change in the people that have been put in place by the Trump administration to carry out his draconian policies. So we need to reform ICE by reducing the amount of its budget. We need to change the policies and the people that are carrying out those policies. So it doesn't matter if you have an agency called ICE or XYZ. If you don't change the policies and the people that have been put in place to carry out those policies, it doesn't matter what you name the agency. So you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, you change the bathwater. And we need comprehensive immigration reform so that dreamers, people with what's known as temporary protective status, will have a pathway to permanent residency and to citizenship. And so if we reform our immigration system, people will come out of the shadows and will be a part of the economy. Right now, they're in the underground economy, and many of them are not paying taxes and so on and so forth. But if we reform the system and give them that permanent resident status that they need, that pathway to citizenship, we will be better off. The economy will benefit, and the nation as a whole would benefit. This is a nation of immigrants, and some people seem to ignore that. And I always refer to something that the late Amiri Baraka once said, that if we all went back to where we came from, the airports would be very crowded. And so we have to respect the immigrant community, and we need to reform our immigration system. Our borders must be protected, but people need to be treated as human beings with compassion, with empathy, and they ought to be given the opportunity to be a part of these United States in a legal and permanent way so that they can come out of the shadows and just enjoy this democracy that we have to struggle hard, to protect, which is in danger right now under the current leadership in Washington.
Well, Congress used to be about checks and balances. Mm-hmm. That's what it used to be about. It seemed like no one in Congress, I can't say no one, a certain group in Congress does not want to hold the current administration accountable for how they handle certain things, and this whole immigration mess we're in now with the war. It's like, will you get in Congress and fight, this current administration, with everything you got, and not, President, just say yes, because that's happening a lot right now. I seen some Democrats even jumping ship and riding with this current administration. How do you feel that you would hold this current administration accountable for a lot of the things we're seeing right now?
I would hold this administration accountable based on the Constitution that, this president has been walking all over the Constitution. And our democratic institutions have been under threat and under pressure from this president. So I will, along with many of my colleagues, do everything in our power, guided by the Constitution, to hold this president accountable. Right now, there are some enablers on the Republican side that's allowing him to do anything that he desires. And he has been given an assist by the Supreme Court. And I think they're beginning to see the errors of their ways. And I sense that there's going to be a turnaround in some of the upcoming rulings that we're expecting from the Supreme Court. But as a member of Congress, I will do everything I can to hold this president accountable. And I believe that we, the Democrats, will be in the majority as a result of the midterm elections in November. And it will place us in a position to better hold this president accountable. And I'll be one of the first to do that.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Right.
Next topic, very important topic, education. A college degree without lifelong debt. Let's talk about that.
Wow. Well, one of the pillars of my campaign has to do with education. And we have too many of our young people that are graduating with a mountain of student loan debt, 100,000, 200,000, and they are not able to afford some of the basic things in life. They can't afford to move out of their parents' house. They can't afford a house of their own because of this mountain of debt. And so there are a couple things that I want to do. Number one, I want to advocate for the forgiveness of student loan debt. And not only of federal student loans, but private loans as well. Biden tried by executive order to provide relief on student loan debt, federal student loan debt. But we need to go further and address not only federal but private student loan debt. We need to change the way student loan debt continues to rise. And one of the ways we can do that is by passing legislation that would prevent the compounding of interest on student loan debt. I believe that the interest on student loan debt should be simple interest, and that students should not have to repay their student loans until at least 1 year after graduation, and that the interest does not begin until that first year after graduation, and the interest must be simple interest and not compound interest. But also, in order to make college more affordable, I believe that the Pell Grant should be expanded. It is currently $7,395. I believe it should be doubled to $15,000, making college more affordable, easing the burden of our young people, and by us providing some debt relief. I think 1/4 of students with student loan debt are behind because they can't afford to pay down those student loans. So the passage of legislation to provide relief is absolutely necessary, and I will be advocating for debt relief for our young people so that they can afford to keep money in their pockets, aspire to become homeowners, or to move into that apartment after graduation that they're seeking. And so, yes, I'll be the loudest voice in Washington advocating for debt relief for our young people to lift that burden of student loans off their shoulders and to give them a pathway to that apartment or to that home that they would like to own.
And now, let me piggyback off that. Would you advocate to rebuild the U.S. Department of Education from what it is now?
Oh, absolutely. This current president placed someone in charge of the Department of Education that has no experience, no knowledge, and so he wanted to close the Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the Department of Education should be, respected as one of the most important departments in the federal government, given the importance of education to everything that we do. And states, cities, all need support from the Department of Education. So one of the things when I go to Washington that I will be advocating for is funding to support all-day child care, all-day kindergarten, so that parents who are working 9 to 5 and their kids are coming out of school at 3 o'clock, parents shouldn't have to worry about what's going to happen to my kid between 3 and 5 or 6 when I get home. So there ought to be funding to allow kids to stay in a safe space until that parent is able to come at 5 or 6 o'clock to pick up that child. But it requires funding. And I'll be advocating for funding from the Department of Education to come down to the states to provide for that all-day child care so that parents will be more comfortable knowing that their children are in a safe space after school. So not contract, but expand.
Right.
Expand the department.
Right. And the last thing we want to tackle, I know this is everybody's issue, is tax relief.
Mm-hmm.
Keep more money in people's pockets.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
That's extremely important. And there are ways to do that. We have to change the tax code. We have to make billionaires, the filthy rich, they need to pay their fair share, which means they have to pay more. So we have to change the tax brackets that would require billionaires to pay their fair share. And while doing that, there's got to be some adjustment, some relief for people at the bottom who are struggling and working so hard to find their way into the middle class. So most people are familiar with what is known as SALT, state and local income tax, state and local tax. And under the Trump administration, before the Trump administration, there was an unlimited amount that you could deduct. Mm-hmm. But he capped that at $10,000. And that, in essence, took money out of people's pockets. Mm-hmm. The federal government kept most of the money, and nothing was being returned to people in the middle class, people at the bottom, mm-hmm. who continue to struggle. So I will be proposing that the SALT tax deduction, that the amount be unlimited, or at a minimum be $100,000 that you ought to be able to deduct, and that there be no expiration date for that SALT mm-hmm. tax deduction. And I think once we do that, we can also, and I saw Senator Cory Booker proposing, and I support this, raising the standard deduction to $75,000. So these are some of the things that we can do. raise the standard deduction, allow SALT to have an unlimited amount in terms of a deduction, and not have a sunset clause, which means that SALT will be a part of the tax code forever.
Right.
And if we do these things, these are adjustments that can be made in the tax code that will allow you, me, and every American to keep more money in their pockets. And if we do that, people will be able to buy that home and to invest and do the things that everyone ought to be able to do in this, the richest nation on the face of the earth. So we have to reform our tax code so that people at the bottom and in the middle are able to keep more money in their pockets. And that is possible, it's doable, and I will be an advocate for that.
Great, great. Now, I think you're running against, what, 16 other candidates?
There are 13 of us.
13 now. I thought it was more. Now, just tell the listeners why they should vote for Adrian O'Map.
People should vote for me because I have lived in this district for over 40 years. I got married here in this district. My kids were born and raised in this district. And I have lived here ever since I moved to Plainfield, New Jersey. And because of my executive experience, my lived experience, because of the vision I have for the 12th Congressional District, my plans to address the housing crisis, my plans to address the health care crisis, to address immigration, to address taxes. These are the things that I intend to go to Washington to advocate for on the behalf of all the people in the 12th Congressional District. We have done it in Plainfield, which is just a microcosm of the rest of the district and the nation. And the same passion that I brought into my tenure as mayor of Plainfield, that same passion will drive me to bring home those resources that we need in the 12th Congressional District. And because of my experience and because that I have done the work, I have governed through a pandemic, through severe weather events, and we have delivered, we have transformed the landscape here in Plainfield. We built housing, we have addressed health care, we have brought employment into our city. We have stabilized taxes, and these are the things that affect the people in the 12th Congressional District. And so if you want a person who does not speak in idealistic platitudes, but someone who has done the work, several of the candidates have talked about different ideas. They've never built one unit of housing. They've never had to find resources to save a healthcare institution that delivers healthcare to this district. And those are things that I have done as a chief executive. And those are some of the many reasons that I give to the people of the district as reasons why they should vote for me. I wouldn't be using any training wheels. I'll be ready from day one, and I will be effective in serving the needs of the people of the 12th District, the state, and the nation. And so, on June 2nd, I asked all of the people in the district, everybody in Plainfield in particular, to come to the polls in droves and cast your vote for me so that I can go to Washington and be your representative, advocating for the needs of the district.
I'm going to read a comment, and this comment is from Richard Wyatt. Richard Wyatt says, despite our political differences, I'm excited about the possibility of a congressional candidate emerging from the city of Plainfield.
We have another comment from Leah Yamilet. I hope I'm saying that right. The education system needs meaningful reform, and leaders like Adrian O'Map bring the clear vision and relentless drive to move it forward.
Well, those comments mean a lot to me, coming from both individuals, but coming from someone like Councillor White, who, we've had some very heated, friendly tussles in the arena, and it is great that Councillor Wyatt sees the importance of sending me to Washington, D.C., and I ask all of the people who supported him to come to my side because it's in the best interest of a united Plainfield delivering those votes that will send me to Washington to represent all of the people of the 12th Congressional District. And so I thank you, Councillor White. I thank you to the other person, and let's do this together. Let's do this. Let's win this, because when I go to Washington, we go to Washington.
All right. With that being said, Mayor, I want to thank you for coming on our platform, the Storm Warning Show, BKS1 Radio. I wish you the best of luck in your whole campaign, and just keep on doing what you're doing, and just keep representing this great city as well.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, again, we just got finished speaking to the Plainfield Mayor, Adrian O'Map. He's running for Congress. If you are running for anything, we open this platform up to you all. So just remember that. You can contact me easily at BKS1Radio@live.com. Feel free. We want to thank you. And do you have a website?
Website is mapforcongress.com.
Mapforcongress.com. That's the number 4. So the number 4, y'all. Mapforcongress.com. All right. We want to thank you. God bless you. And y'all have a great night. Everybody, peace and blessings.
Thank you. Peace.
This is the Storm Warning Show. Turn the radio on. Let's go. You're listening to the Storm Warning Show.
America works best when leaders focus on results, not noise. Adrian Mapp came to this country as a young man because his family believed in the promise of America. He watched his mother work hard, play by the rules, and sacrifice so much to give him opportunities she could only dream of. She taught him faith in God, in hard work, and in the idea that tomorrow can be better than today. As mayor, Adrian honored that faith with action. He invested in public safety, and crime is down. He spearheaded new investment in our economy, and new businesses are opening. He put Plainfield families first. Now good jobs are coming back to our community. And he balanced the budget without raising taxes. He didn't do it with politics as usual. He did it by bringing people together and solving real problems.
In Congress, I'll do the same thing. Cut through the bickering, lower costs for families, and expand access to affordable health care. I'm Adrian Mapp, and I approve this message because working families deserve a fair shot.
America works